if we want to be efficient with our astrology interpretations, using words that we have associations with can be very helpful in order to like gather different ideas from here and there, and then like integrating what resonates for us. And for me, it is the inner child, the concept of inner child in psychology, and the inner child being our not fully developed versions of ourselves that are very fragile inside, and that we have painful embodied memories from, and which has not yet been integrated because it is a shadow side for us. It is very often very painful, and since it is a literal child emotional version of ourselves, it is very scared. It is very sensitive, and the word fragile for me is very direct. It explains a lot. So it's this fragile version of ourselves. And basically then, when we have this inner child version, this sensitivity, this unevolved shadow sides of our personality as a grown adult now, it is around the Virgo traits, which is this perfectionist, this dissecting, this purification need, and it is both the positive and the negative, and what we want to accomplish with self-work is going from the shadow sides to the more evolved sides. And the first step in doing that is getting consciousness around this pattern in ourselves, and not just having the inner child getting triggered and then just reacting from this place of scarcity, I wanted to say. But yeah, it could be as well, because all states of scaredness comes from this place of lacking, this place of not having trust to us being loved unconditionally. So it could be from that place as well, or it is. So this placement makes it very scared of being right or wrong. Or not scared of being right, that's what we aim for with like Chiron in Virgo, but it's like this focus around like what is considered right and what is considered wrong. And with this placement, depending on in which house you have it, it will be more emphasized in that area. But it can manifest as a very challenging approach towards yourself, mostly because in all of the houses it is very like, it is still experienced in your self expression, in your like the shell or your experience of life. So it will become some type of personal, especially since it is the sensitivity wound. So most likely you will have this very harsh inner critic voice in your head, striving always to be perfect or to be whole, like being this ideal version of yourself, and then being very scared that people will see through you and see that you are not enough. And it can make you have both social anxiety, but also it can make you have this imposter syndrome, where you can have good confidence, but you can still have this like feeling that you are super scared that someone will see through you and see that you do not love yourself genuinely. Because if you did love yourself, you would not be this super harsh inner critic towards your inner child. Since the self-love concept is basically having this acceptance and embracing all of the unwanted parts. And with all of these placements, Virgo has a lot of amazing traits. So it's not just like we can see it as bad luck. We have this inner child that is obsessed with being perfect and so scared of doing something wrong, and feeling like it's bad karma that you got this wound. It has a lot of, like, it makes you a very critical person, for better and worse. It can make you a very, like, detail oriented person, which then can be applied for a lot of things. It can make you very efficient, it can make you very sought after, because it can make you very skilled when it comes to developing things or creating things, because you're very, like, this methodical person who sees every step what needs to be done. And it also makes you very loving. It can make you very understanding and very also sensitive to other people that can have this scaredness of being right or wrong. And how you integrate this, of course, is by becoming your inner parent, the parent that your inner child needs, and realizing when you feel this awakened, sensitive, fragile inner version of yourself, you feel like someone said something like, no, don't do that, just like in the speed of the moment, and you feel like your inner child, you can literally feel like this version of yourself being this, like, oh no, what did I do wrong? That is kind of like this feeling. And then most likely you, if you're unconscious, you react with defensiveness or any, like, strategy to self help yourself in that moment, and then afterwards you can repeat that incident depending on your Mercury placement and in which zodiac sign and stuff. But this, when those moments happen, to just afterwards, if it's too triggering in the moment, to reach yourself, your inner child, with love in that instant. That is very, like, it's very advanced to be able to just, like, feel that, and then, like, oh, just self-soothe and say to yourself, it's okay. You can't expect to go from the unconscious reaction and then, like, blaming yourself afterwards and then creating this inner negative pattern, to going directly to, like, self-compassion and love and meeting your inner child. Like, it's not very realistic to go from one to the other in like, just from seeing this video or, like, reading a book. Like, you have to ease into it and do it afterwards in a safe place. It can be that you go into, like, a bathroom afterwards and, like, try to really, like, ground yourself, breathe with consciousness, and then, like, repeat and try to give your inner child love in that instance, and try to stay with that feeling, because what your inner child is very scared of is that the feeling becomes very overwhelming, and then natural response is to try to fled from that feeling, try to distract yourself, dissociate. But what you need to teach your inner child is that it's okay to feel uncomfortable feelings, and then showing that you will survive and you will not make it even worse by blaming yourself, because that is often the most common way to deal with such situation. But if you now respond with, we can bear this emotion, we can let it be felt, and then give ourselves love so that we heal from every moment that happens to us. And that will make you in the end more confident, because you realize that you can handle a lot of challenging situations, instead of just being scared or having this resistance towards that it might be a negative situation. So yeah. Just reassuring, giving love, and then showing that it is possible to handle this situation. That will, in time, it will, like any relationship, it will create a trust between your inner child and your now adult version. And so if you think about how long you have lived and how many times before you have just had these situations come into your existence, and then this like negative unconscious pattern happens, and then afterwards you blame yourself. If you think about how many situations, and you think about realistically what it will take for your inner child that has this fragility but also like this scaredness of your inner parent, your inner critic, and seeing like how long does it take before it feels like, okay, now it's a real change. You need to repeat and repeat and repeat until it's integrated, and that your natural instinct when something happens is choosing love instead of fear. And that will eventually create a trust. So that is basically how I interpret the Chiron in Virgo wound. It can have its origin can be from a very critical parent. It is very likely that it is. It can be like it can be a sibling, it can be like this teacher, or just society in general being very like critical towards you, or you being bullied, and then internalizing that like Virgo, shadow side of Virgo rule, where, or not rule, yeah, it could be seen as a rule, but this like language, this harshness for your inner child. And what needs to be done then is love. It sounds easy, but it takes a lot of time. Just think about, I like to think about my inner child when it feels triggered, like a dog or a puppy that's being like very scolded with a harsh voice. Like that's basically how it feels to me when my inner child is awakened, and it feels like so much shame from being like scolded. And just this image helps me a lot to see like what would that dog or that puppy need in that instance. It's not to be scolded, it is basically like an embrace and love. Like having that empathy towards your inner child is key. And also then seeing what aspects it does in or has in your chart, and then seeing what house is very powerful. But this zodiac sign in Chiron, it feels very like that is the flavor or like the pattern that you will experience this woundedness within. And yeah, so please let me know how this resonates, if your experience of Chiron in Virgo is different and how it's different. And I hope you enjoyed. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.